Hello, my green skins, and today we're going to be talking about an interesting movie. Interesting in a lot of ways, very fascinating, and is part of a genre I didn't know was a genre. Yes, we're talking about Rollerball. Get the fuck out of here! Not that one. We're talking about that one. There's the good one. Right there. Okay. We are talking about Rollerball 1975. Not the crappy remake. I can't believe there's a crappy remake, but there's a crappy remake. So, did anyone actually think dystopian sports movie is a thing? I didn't think dystopian sports movie was a thing. I knew of Death Race 2000, but the more I looked into it, I went, Robot Jocks, this movie, that movie. There's a lot of dystopian sports movies. I would actually say, in a lot of ways, I was kind of surprised by this. And it kind of shocked me. Now, my personal thing with this movie, my personal backstory with this movie is a movie that I watched with a good buddy of mine who wanted to be a movie guy. His game plan in life was, I'm going to go to all these film places, go study into university, all this stuff, and then he was going to be he was going to be a director. He was going to be the next Kubrick. And boy, did that not work out for him. Now, for years and years and years, I totally forgot about this movie. Until watching on YouTube a guy by the name of Feral Historian. Look this guy up. He's probably some of the best. I don't want to say geopolitical, but he's one of the best fictional political, I guess would be the best way to put it. All these titles. Fictional political guy I've seen so far. When he talks about stuff like Fallout, when he talks about a lot of different stuff. And he does a lot of dystopian stuff. I found him by the Cobra one, because I think he's one of the most heavy lore guys for the Cobra story arc. And it was actually quite fun to watch. And he has some good stuff. So Feral Historian, link in description. This guy, when I saw this, I was like, why is this movie, as I'm listening to him talk about it, I went, oh, all the dystopian, holy shit. It's like lightning struck in my head, and it's like, I remember hanging out with my buddy late one night, playing Robotech, and a couple other hardcore games. I'm like, holy shit, this is just registering all these bells and whistles are bing, 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 going off in my head. This is a very fascinating thing for me. It was like having this nostalgia hit. So I had to watch this again. So I watched it with people, and it was a very interesting movie. And for dystopian, so the question is it a good movie? And is it just one of those movies like my friend likes to call talkies? I have a friend of mine who watches movies. He says, well, is it a movie where I can actually sit down and enjoy it, or are we going to have a philosophical debate about it? That's a question. And let's answer that question as we go into the acting. So, unfortunately, everyone is kind of second fiddle to the actor James Caan, who plays our hero, and John Beck, who plays his sidekick. This is an interesting movie for acting, because there is a lot of interesting acting in this, and a lot of it is James Caan trying to play a part, trying to manipulate, trying to show these guys, trying to play the roles, trying to keep himself ahead of a game that he unfortunately did not want to play, but looks like his ass is going to have to play it one way or another, even if he doesn't want to. And another one who is John, who's basically his partner in crime for most of this movie. Unfortunately for him, he has a couple negatives as well coming down his life. And so they are dealing with this interesting scenario where they are trying to do their best. Everyone else's acting in this is really good, though. This is a solid, all around good acting. And I'm surprised by it. It for something that you think is going to be shit. Like let's be honest, it's a 70s dystopian movie. They're either good as gold or crap as king. One or the other. Dystopian movies will either make you like them or they will be the worst things you ever watch. It's one of the two. It's no in between when it comes to these type of movies. And that is kind of the way I feel about this with this cast. And so the acting is really good. Next, we're going to get to the music. Music for Rollerball. Now, here's where we get into the fun. Music in this is actually kind of good. Kind of really, really good. Kind of surprisingly shocking good, but at the same time, kind of eh. It's one of those scenarios where, well, here's the problem with it. Do you like... That is the theme to Rollerball. So I like Rollerball for that. But at the same time, I don't know, like, you know, it's something from the 70s. 70s has its own feel when it comes to movies. It has its own type of music, its own energy. This really doesn't have that with this one. Now, that's the big problem with this. And I think that's my biggest problem with this movie was the fact that the music is kind of, okay, I guess it's here. And that's kind of how I feel. Now we got to get to the visual effects and the filming of this movie. This movie has amazing cinematography. Wow, this movie and its cinematography is so good. And it's shot really, really good. And that's one of the biggest things about this movie. This movie is so well shot. And the scene shots and the transition shots are really good. One of my favorite transition shots is where the guys start yelling Houston to this Asian guy and they're trying to like scare him down. You know, oh, you know, they're only Asian people, only so tall. And that right there, this thing where they start Houston, and the guys start coming towards the camera, Houston. It's that phenomenally shot. I've actually think it's one of the better shot movies of like a dystopian movie. And there's quite a few that have some good shots, but this one has some amazing shots. And a lot of the shots are interesting in a lot of ways. And they also take from other movies. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. Again, this is coming at it from a complete cold thing. I like doing in-depth stuff a little later if I feel like I need to, but this movie I want to come at it cold because I want people to come at this movie cold. And that is the thing about this. This is so beautifully shot. My biggest complaint is a lot of the people in this movie don't look like actors. Like they don't look like sports guys. Like they really don't have that sports guy look to them. Mind you, they don't have that crappy 2005 look to them, but why did they remake this movie? So that's the best way to put it. This is really beautifully shot. And the sports stuff is amazingly shot. Next, we're going to get to the story. And this is going to be an interesting one because this is either going to be a really short story or a really long story. We'll see how this goes. So our story begins with the lights turning on and we get the fun that is the rollerball sport. We get to see, I think, a whole inning. I don't know if it's the complete inning or it's just like one part, or do we get to see, like, we get to watch the entire way the sport plays. By the way, the sport plays like a balls. I don't know how you'd be able to play this game. To my knowledge, what it is you guys can use some martial arts, some fighting stances. You can hit and hurt people in certain ways, but you can't do certain other things. It's kind of like all over the place. Then we get a really good speech by the head of a energy company. I don't know if it's like Texas Energy or something like that. It's like some energy company guy gives a big speech about the game of rollerball and how important it is. And he tells John, John, you have to show up and meet me at the office. John's like, okay, I'll meet you at the office. Now they they get their pills, they get their stuff, they get their narcotics ready to go. Like everyone's taking pills, which I don't know if it's like a reference to ecstasy or is it a reference to other major hardcore narcotics. I'm not 100% sure, but it is one of those things like I'm assuming it's just a reference to like, crack or cocaine or something stupid like that. They call it ambrosia. And they also refer to it as endorphins or something like that. I've heard there's two references to the pill. So they leave and he shows and the big guy John shows up to the office and he gets an interesting conversation with this guy talking about it's time to retire, John. You've reached your point. Even though you're the best in the game, and you could probably win another tournament, win another score for me, we need you to retire. Now, they talk about a lot of interesting stuff. Awards, all this other stuff that just I don't want to get into much because a part of me is going to have a hard time with that because I want you to learn for yourself for this one. And so they have a conversation. He goes back and meets his mistress, and his mistress has been told that she has to leave. And he's like, well, I didn't want you to leave. And she's like, well, no, I have to go. Bye. So he gets, unfortunately, a new mistress. And then he travels to talk to this reporter. He's going to have this big interview. And this big interview is going to be his retirement plan. And everything's done very cold. Almost like he feels like he's being let out the pasture when he doesn't feel like he should be able to let out the pasture. This is his sport. This is his game. And he doesn't give a shit. So then it comes into him trying to find out why these people want him gone. For example, he meets up with his former fight choreographer and I guess a former player of Rollerball, and he talks about how the world was before this and this time. And so he says, "Hey, do me a favor, find out what's going on." Then we get the party scene. When we jump to the party scene, we get the fun of that, where you get to see this world that's a dystopian in a lot of ways, and the dystopian world and how the rich, the super elite, see the world now. And this is interesting because this is like people doing lots and lots of heavy drugs. You can tell this is the 70s. And a lot of interesting stuff. Like they're just fucking around with super ray guns and shit and blowing up stuff and they're having their fun. Well, he's having an interesting conversation, which I kind of like. He has another conversation with the big guy and he's like, look, I want my wife back. I want this. I want that. This is what I want back. I want concessions. Give me the concessions and I will do that. And he's like, well, we can't do that. Well, I guess I'm going to do the sport then. Bye. And he kind of like fucks off. He's basically like, I'm going to go win one more time. What are you going to do? Stop me. This takes them to their studying for the Japanese fight. Because they're going to be fighting the Japanese martial artists for Rollerball. And the Japanese team. I call it because it's really silly. By the way, it's silly. Really silly. So this leads them to traveling to there. He gets in a fight with his new wife, his future mistress, and he's like, well, don't come back, you're gone. So he goes to Tokyo, and they are screaming his name. They are John. He's super popular. And what happens is that the corporate heads, the leaders of the countries now, there's only 3 corporations in power now. Everyone else isn't. And they are like, well, we're going to change the rules. We're going to make the game more dangerous. So they make the game way more dangerous. So the first round goes off. And this game is a bloodbath. It's such a bloodbath that there are people getting knocked over and it's getting really gruesome. Like there's, militant substitutions. It's getting bad. Now they end up beating up his partner in crime. His little buddy gets murdered. So John and one of the guys murders one of their guys. And like, boy, howdy does he murder him. Now his partner in crime is still technically alive, but he's permanently brain dead. This leads John to going to the computers. And I have a conspiracy theory about this. I'll get to that at the end. So after this, he gets back with his wife, and there's some serious anger issues between him and his wife, and they're not exactly having a good moment, a good relationship moment right here. And then he goes back to finish the last sport game. And this sport game is the last game is a bloodbath. And it ends with them. He's the only skater alive. Everyone else is dead or down. And the crowd screaming, John, 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 John. And holy shit, that's an interesting ending. So next we're going to get to my final thoughts and my conspiracy for this movie. Again, I told you it's going to be an interesting story, an interesting short story playthrough. I am probably missing a lot of the story. I don't want to get too much into the story because I want people to be left watching this. Now, I am going to go with my rating. Is this a good movie, and what should I rate this? Now, the problem with this movie is I think this movie is trying to say something, and a lot of these sports movies are trying to say something. That's their general gist. A lot of these have always been that way. It's always trying to say, here's A, B, C, D. And this is definitely a product of that time. But my thoughts on it, is it good now? I'd say it's good, but is it like something I would say is like high up on the markings? Well, that's where I have an interesting way of looking at this movie. I think this movie is a solid 6.5. It's above average. It's not perfect, but it's there. It's right at that point where you go, okay, all right, I see this movie. This movie's interesting. And I kind of like it. Now, again, I left a lot out. I didn't want to talk about everything that this movie has because there's a lot of interesting moments. There's a lot of great acting in this movie. And this is a very visual movie. It's not as bad as I can't remember the name of it now. My brain's kind of spazzing out. But there's a couple Hammer movies that are so visual, it's like you can't really, you describe the movie, you've just described the movie. So I left a lot of things out on purpose, just so you guys can see the subtle nods to stuff, just so you can see how he they really do come after John. And now let's get to the conspiracy of this. I think that their society is so under control now and so broken, dystopian wise, that I don't even think the heads of the world, the major companies that are part of the organizations, I don't even think they're in control. I think the computers are in control. There's a scene in this movie where it's like John like it's the computer has a spaz, has a hissy fit. And I'm wondering if that's what's going on. That's my rough theory. Now, leave your description what you think after seeing this movie. And then tell me if you want to see this movie. Again, I wanted to keep it very vague. Special thanks again to Feral Historian. The guy reminded me of this movie. I completely forgot it exists. Thank you so much. And keep up your good work. He did iRobot recently. I know this dates the thing, but definitely look up this guy. I will leave a link in the description. This guy does some great critiques, and I do like his work. And I will see you next time on Orc War Chief Reviews. I hope you enjoyed this one. See ya.